Hi, my name is Regina Marie Baldwin. I'm a certified professional Christian life coach and a pastoral counselor. Today I want to talk to you about parent alienation and parent alienation syndrome and the serious effects that separation and divorce have on children. Before I get started, I want to dedicate this video to my two younger children, Rachel and Stephen Weisinger. I love you very much. And I also want to dedicate this video to all the children out there that have gone through a family divorce. Their parents got divorced. I also want to dedicate this video to parents that are going through a divorce, are separated, or are even contemplating it. And before I get started, I want to explain something. Children under the age of 10, they're not able to reason or process information in a logical manner like we do, like adults do, or hopefully like adults do. Everything that they pick up, feelings, resentment, sarcasm, body language, overheard discussions, they process and internalize this as fact and truth. And they will eventually, over time, be programmed. This is something that we're going to talk about. And it doesn't only happen in the cases where a mother and father are fighting or going through a separation. It oftentimes happens when a child is removed from the home for whatever reason, and an extended family member or grandparents or caretaker or somebody other than the parent or parents have legal custody of the child or children. I have to divide this into probably 2 or 3 parts because the information is so important, and I believe it's so vital if you're going through a situation like this that you have this knowledge, because the effects of what I'm going to talk to you about have lifetime damaging consequences. And although your children might appear well adjusted right now, or your grandchildren or whomever, I promise you, over time, if you partake in some of the behaviors that I'm going to addressing, it will come back. It will come back to you, and you will unfortunately then feel the pain of the child's consequences that they have to live with. So, in today's society, all we have to really do is turn on the television or read the newspaper to see the total destruction and downhill slide of morality in our country. The statistics are staggering of marital discord, where 35% of people who marry will get a divorce, and 18% of divorced couples have been remarried several times. What's even sadder is multiple divorces are extremely common in the church today among professing Christian families. The statistics are quickly catching up to non-Christian or even non-religious families. Virtually every night, 40% of children sleep in homes where there's no father, and a single parent child is 2 to 3 times more likely to have physical and emotional problems even 10 to 15 years after a divorce or being separated from one or both parents. Children born after 1950 are 10 times more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and all sorts of ailments brought on by the stress of the destruction of the family. According to Psalm 127:3, men and women are told that children are a reward, a gift from the Lord. Why is it then that the suicide rate has tripled for adolescents since 1958, and children even younger than that are trying to kill themselves? Adolescents since 1960s are reporting ulcers. An increasing number are turning to drugs, sex, violence, alcohol. What's even more disturbing is 42% of children from the ages of kindergarten to second grade are left home alone with no one to care for them. Think about that number. 42% of children in America between the ages of kindergarten and second grade are left home alone with no one to care for them. Our younger generations, like I said, they're showing ulcers, increasing number are turning to drugs, alcohol, sex, violence. Is it any wonder then that since many parents are not physically or emotionally available, that children are making up their own rules and standards which are beyond a parent's or custodial caretaker's influence? I don't think so. Even things that parents or grandparents think that are good, such as iPods, cell phones, constant educational activities, sports, are causing more and more bad stress. Children who are given too much time alone are also 50% more likely to experiment with smoking and drugs. They also have more and more disciplinary and behavioral problems. Now, I need to note that many times it might appear that your child or the children that you're caring for are very well adjusted and doing well, but many of these signs and consequences will not appear till years later when the damage, unfortunately, has already been done. A famous child psychologist called Dr. Lee Salk once said the trauma of divorce is second only to death in the child's life. Children sense a deep sense of loss, and they feel that they're suddenly vulnerable to forces beyond their control, and they actually are. Most children of divorce will never have to face such a stressful event again in their entire life. And unfortunately, as common as divorce and separation is today, 80% of children rarely receive any warning that this is about to happen to their own family and that their world is about to be turned upside down. Some children will be subject to multiple divorces by the time they go away to college. I'm going to give you some of the effects that divorce has on children. Number one, divorce signals to a child that his or her family structure has totally collapsed, and this makes a child feel very threatened and alone. The loneliness a child feels can be very acute and last a very long time. Secondly, since many parents, unprepared for this event themselves, are consumed with their own feelings, emotions, and what they have to do to survive, it leaves them with a diminished capacity to parent their children to the best of their ability. In a divorce, children feel extremely conflicted in loyalty to their parent or parents. Tremendous anxiety is brought about in the child or children regarding how and to what extent their living situation is going to change. In many cases, there's incredible hatred and resentment between the mother and father of the children. Also, I must add, extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, well-intentioned, I have to stress this, well-intentioned, loving family members and parents do this and don't realize what a damaging effect it has on children, and it causes tremendous, tremendous fear. It also signals other losses in a child's life. It may require a change of schools, neighborhood, friends, educational activities, after school curricular activities, sports, change in socioeconomic status, going from a house to, a small apartment, many adjustments which affect a child in many ways that we're just starting to, I think, acknowledge. I think we've known that they've existed all along, but the statistics are there now to really back it up. One of the largest factors in a child's ability to cope is the hostility factor between parents. or between extended family towards the parents, towards the children's parents. The greater the hostility, resentment, and or conflict, the greater damage there's going to be to the child. No matter how it looks right now, no matter how well adjusted they appear, if there is resentment, hostility, and conflict, a child will suffer some of the consequences I'm going to be talking about. When a divorce is pursued impulsively or with anger between parents, children are caught up in a never-ending custody battle where the loyalty of the child to either or both parents is often seduced. What exactly is parent alienation? Children are often caught in an emotional crossfire when parents separate and divorce. Many couples and extended family members, you could even be a friend that has legal custody of a child or someone's children, and court battles can go on for years over visitation, child support, holidays, and endless issues. Research repeatedly shows that a child's adjustment and mental health depend directly on whether or not and how well parents or caretakers and legal guardians protect the children from any of this conflict. Parents who consciously or unconsciously sabotage their children's relationship with one or both parents will learn how their behavior, sooner or later, has caused long-term damaging effects. As seen, divorce not only tears the family apart, but causes many additional difficulties for children to deal with. It's not only bad enough that divorce brings the additional statistics of depression and anxiety and all sorts of emotional and behavioral problems for today's children, but more and more children, even in professing Christian families, are put through high conflict divorce. Now, during the 1970s, a medical doctor named Dr. Richard Gardner had been studying the effects of children on high conflict divorce and found that there were about 25% of children that during a high conflict divorce, their custodial parent, grandparents, or guardians completely negated, belittled, or insulted the absent parent or parents unjustifiably to the point that it caused total destruction to a once loving parent-child bond. Again, let me remind you, although it is necessary oftentimes to set boundaries for a parent or parents that are struggling with an issue of any kind of irresponsibility, or they may be very depressed or relapsed with an alcohol problem. No matter what it is, all a child cares about is, am I valued and am I loved? So although oftentimes boundaries do need to be set, it's very important that the child is reinforced with knowing that both parents love them tremendously and that their loyalty, they don't feel that their loyalty is conflicted. This process leads to a tragic outcome when the child and an alienated parent who previously had a very loving relationship and a mutually satisfying relationship lose that nurture and joy for many years, sometimes, unfortunately, for a lifetime. I have counseled and I have dealt with countless children and parents that are suffering these consequences years and years, sometimes a decade or two afterwards, after this has happened. Dr. Darnell is the person that termed parental alienation, and when it's done to an extreme level, it's called parental alienation syndrome. Parent alienation syndrome, defined by Dr. Darnell, is any constellation of behavior, whether conscious or unconscious, that evokes a disturbance in the relationship between a child and one or both parents or the other parent. Parent alienation syndrome versus parent alienation, according to Darnell, is described as a disorder that arises primarily in the context of high custody disputes. Its primary manifestation is a child's campaign of denigration against a parent or parents, a campaign that has no justification. It results from the combination of programming or brainwashing. I hate to use that word, but that's really what it is. To the parents and child's own contribution, and the parent and child's own contributions to the vilification of a targeted or absent parent or parents. Let's talk about some of the signs of parental alienation. Behaviors that are often campaigned from the alienating parent or guardian against a parent or targeted parents include moral issues, such as their type of friends, their values, their lifestyle, their religion, their successes with a stress on their failures, even their residential choice, where they've chosen to live. They're intended to boost the custodian's own ego and position in comparison to the parents, who become completely expendable over time. Now, you may not intentionally do this, but like I mentioned earlier, your frustration going to court and struggling with this, and your phone conversations with friends or attorneys, little ears hear a lot, and they process this as truth, and they process it as fact. They are not able to say, well, mom must have had a bad day. Things will be, hopefully things will be better tomorrow. Or they're just really in a bad mood. If they hear you saying something, they're going to take it as fact. It's going to invoke fear in them, and they're going to feel a conflict of loyalty to a parent, and sometimes both parents. And they're going to ally themselves over time with whoever is taking care of them because of the insecurity and instability that they've gone through all their changes in circumstances. Criticizing behaviors are very powerful, especially if they occur over a long period of time. And whatever positive view the child had of a parent will eventually conform to a custodial guardian's view of a parent or parents and their opinions and sentiments. A persistent campaign of name-calling often happens, criticizing and defacing the targeted parent or absent. I'm going to use that interchangeably, absent parent, targeted parent. A child will tell that parent when they stop being lazy or stop doing drugs, that they'll consider talking to them again. Usually these comments directly reflect their caretaker's sentiments and opinions. The alienating parent, the alienated or targeted or absent parent is all bad, and there's no hope or redeeming qualities. What winds up happening is the child will actually start making degrading remarks themselves, such as, you don't care about me. You never cared about anything I did. You're a drug addict or a drunk. You're lazy. I don't want to see you or have anything to do with you anymore. You're not even my mother or my father as far as I'm concerned. These comments reflect the custodial and alienating caregiver's sentiments that the child has picked up over time. When a child is then asked about all the good times they used to have by that parent, the child says that they don't remember. If pictures are presented and they're seen smiling with this parent, they'll say they were just faking it. Presence of borrowed scenario. A child justifies his feelings from situations or scenarios that were told to him or her by an alienating grandparent, parent, caretaker, etc. again. Now, this might not be done on purpose, but it has absolute devastating consequences. Please, parents, caretakers, please hear me, family members. The alienating child may say that he remembers how terrible things were and he was beaten and abused when he was 2 years old. But the fact is, 2-year-olds don't have those kinds of memories. This rationalization, according to Dr. Darnell, comes from what's been overheard by the adults caring for them, or sometimes told to them directly, and like I mentioned earlier, the allegations in a child's mind must be true. You see, the threat of withdrawal of approval or love from their caretaker right now is one of the most powerful, coercive, and universally successful techniques. Children come to fear any type of rejection from the alienating parent or custodial caretakers whom they live with, and the child becomes sort of a cohort and has to also turn against the parent or parents in order to make themselves feel secure. I'm not saying that the custodial parent or persons want this to happen, but this is a child's natural reaction. They align themselves up with you so that they feel more secure, because if they're on your side, they'll feel less threatened that they'll be abandoned again, because this triggers serious abandonment issues. The signs and behaviors are seemingly endless at how any adult or family member can turn a once loving relationship against a parent that they had one with. Often it's unconscious, but believe it or not, most of the time it's very calculated and planned. Unfortunately, parents or grandparents or caretakers who alienate their children, like I said, or even guardians, grandparents, aunts, uncles, the list is endless, who do this oftentimes believe because of their own hurt and possible betrayal and varying degrees of anger, they do so in the quote-unquote best interest of the children. I can't tell you how many times I have sat in an office with a parent, a mother, a father, a grandparent, and heard the justification of their behavior, anger, attitudes, money spent in court, and they claim they're doing this in the best interest of the children. At this point, I'm going to end. I'd really like you to think about what we've talked about, and I will be back to talk about the motivational factors and what the exact consequences, lifetime consequences, and behaviors that result because of this. My name again is Regina Marie Baldwin. Please stop by and visit me at www.reginabaldwin.com. If you're going through this, you don't have to go through it alone. If you need encouragement, advice, please fill out my free consultation request, and I'd love to talk to you, whether it's regarding something you're going through or something your child is going through. I look forward to talking to you again, and until then, have a very blessed day, and may God be with you and look over your children and your grandchildren and just your loved ones. Have a blessed day.